There's a code blue in room 304, but the patient died 2 hours ago. The room is empty. We're watching the monitor spike on its own. Oh God, it's writing his name in the waveform. It knows we're watching. The ICU isn't a place of healing. Not really. It's a border, a thin membrane where the barely living and the recently dead share the same square footage, and sometimes the same room. The stories I'm about to tell you are not fiction. They are pulled from real medical records, witness statements, and the nightmares of the nurses who lived them. You're about to enter the most haunted place on earth, the intensive care unit. And once you know what happens here, you will never look at a hospital the same way again. I thought it was a glitch, a short in the wiring. But then Mark pulled up the timestamp. Room 304 replayed his death. 2 hours after we removed the body. The electrical signature of a dead man's heart came back on its own, 3 spikes, just like the ones on his chart, just like the ones at the end. Mr. Henderson's body was at the morgue. His heart was in a specimen jar, but something in room 304 was still trying to restart him, still trying to pull him back. And according to the night shift, sometimes, late at night, the monitor blinks on by itself. And the waveform? It still spells out his name. If you think adult ICUs are bad, the pediatric wing is worse, because the kids see things long before the nurses do. Denise was the first. Working an overnight in the PICU, she took her break in the lactation room. It used to be a supply closet, back when this floor was palliative care for terminal kids. Stay. Still. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. She just had to watch it. A tall doctor with a hole for a mouth, and it was watching her right back. A week later, Kayla, different nurse, different shift, fell into the exact same paralysis. She saw the exact same figure in the exact same corner. When she finally broke free, she was sobbing, saying over and over. It was licking the air, tasting us. It was tasting us through the hole. Megan heard the stories. She didn't believe them until her 3 a.m. rounds passed that room. At exactly 3:12 a.m. she saw it. Upside down, standing on the ceiling tiles. Hair hanging down, wet strands dripping onto the floor. The door handle jiggled, like it wanted her to open it. The nurses only connected the pattern when a child in room 7, post-op, barely able to speak, started drawing the same thing every single day. A man in a white coat, a hole for a mouth, and underneath it, one word she shouldn't have known how to write. They showed the drawing to Megan. She went pale. Because that child had never been inside the lactation room, had never heard the nurse's stories, but she drew the hole. And she wrote what it did. It swallows. A security still was later leaked to a paranormal forum. The corner at 3:12 a.m., it's not empty. There's something there. Cold, dense, hungry. If you saw this on your night shift, would you break your contract and run? Tell me right now in the comments. I need to know. Mrs. Delgado was 74. She'd lived a full life. 3 kids, 7 grandkids, a husband she missed every single day. When they admitted her for heart failure, she made one thing crystal clear. If I go, let me go. No heroics. I signed the paper. I want to see my Roberto. You understand? The charge nurse understood. She double-checked the wristband. Bright red. Impossible to miss. Or so she thought. At 2:47 a.m., Mrs. Delgado's heart stopped. Exactly the way she wanted. Peaceful. Final. It should have been over. But the resident on call was new. First week, he saw a dying patient and panicked. He never checked the wristband. He never looked at the chart. He just started pushing. The charge nurse screamed at him to stop. She grabbed his arm. He shoved her back and kept pumping. 2 full minutes, ribs cracking under his palms, and then Mrs. Delgado opened her eyes. But it wasn't relief. It wasn't life. It was rage. Let me fall asleep again. There was no heartbeat on the monitor. Nothing. But Mrs. Delgado sat up anyway, and when she spoke again, the voice had changed. Quieter, but worse. Wrong body. You trapped me in the wrong body. Then she fell. Just fell. Like whatever was holding her up let go all at once. But the room had changed. The air was wrong. The crash cart monitor glitched, and on the screen, the waveform wasn't a flat line anymore. It was laughing. A slow, jagged pattern. Up, down, like a chest heaving with a joke only the dead could understand. And then the smell hit. Sulfur. Rot. Like something had been dragged up from somewhere it was never supposed to leave. They checked Mrs. Delgado's pulse. Nothing. She was gone. But the thing that had borrowed her, it wasn't hers. It wasn't her. Whatever we pulled back, it was just looking for a ride, a warm body, and we gave it one. The charge nurse transferred hospitals a month later. She couldn't walk past that room anymore. In therapy, she said something that made her therapist quit 2 sessions later. But that thing in Delgado's room, it was just passing through. It's not the worst thing I've seen in an ICU. There's a room that doesn't trap the dying. It eats the living. Room 9. Every ICU has a room 9, and every nurse who's worked it has a story. But the ones who survive it, they don't talk. They just transfer. They just disappear. But one patient didn't disappear. And what she saw inside room 9 is next. Room 9. Neurological ICU. It's the smallest bay on the floor, the one nurses draw straws to avoid. Not because it's cramped, but because of what lives in the corner. Every patient assigned to room 9 draws the same thing. Doesn't matter their age. Doesn't matter if they're sedated, intubated, or completely lucid. Crayon, pen, or traced in condensation on the bed rail. It's always the same. A tall doctor, white coat. No mouth. They always include one specific detail, the tool in its hand. It's not a scalpel. It's a laryngoscope, a rusted one. The thing they use to look down your throat, to open your airway. Only this one isn't for breathing. It's for pulling something out. It's not a ghost. Ghosts are leftovers. This is a filter. It stands in the corner, waiting to unwrap the soul from the body that's dying. But it gets hungry. It gets impatient. And sometimes it unwraps you just to see what you taste like. Professor Aldridge screamed those exact words for 3 hours. Then his heart stopped. The nurses found his drawing under the pillow. Same figure, same rusted blade. Room 9 took 17 patients in 2 years, all unexpected cardiac arrests, all after hours of screaming about the tall doctor. And then came the 18th, the only survivor, a young woman named Erin. She tried to end her life and ended up in room 9 instead. Erin was intubated, sedated, should have been completely unconscious. But she remembers everything. She said the tall doctor came for her at 3:12 a.m., bent over her, put its lipless mouth right up against her endotracheal tube, and inhaled. She felt herself cooling, felt something deep inside her, something warm and vital, starting to slide up her throat, separating, unwrapping. The tall doctor was tasting her soul through the tube, and she was leaving her body. But Erin didn't want to die anymore. Not really. And in that moment she bit down on the tube, and she screamed inside her head. Not with fear, but with fury. Not yet. The tall doctor recoiled. It didn't understand. Room 9 was for those who had given up, those who were ready to go. But Erin fought. And the thing that feeds on surrender didn't know how to swallow someone who bit back. A paranormal investigator later smuggled a thermal camera into room 9. This photo was taken 3 hours after Erin's encounter, You can see her in the bed, still warm. You can see the figure in the corner, leaning away, head tilted. And the endotracheal tube, the one the tall doctor put its mouth on, is frozen solid. A jagged line of ice. In a room kept at 72 degrees, Erin survived, went home. She told the investigators the tall doctor made a mistake, that it had never lost a meal before. But Room 9 doesn't forget. The tall doctor just learned patience. It never hunts survivors immediately. It waits exactly 6 months, exactly 184 days. She died in her sleep, 184 days after she left Room 9. The autopsy said sudden cardiac arrest, natural causes. But her mother found the window frozen over in August from the inside. The tall doctor hadn't let her go. It just waited until she felt safe, until she was asleep, and then it finished what it started. Room 9 doesn't trap the dying. It marks the living, and once you've been inside it, you carry something out with you. A countdown, 184 days. If you ever wake up in a hospital and the corner of the room feels colder than the rest, start counting. Medical science says you hallucinate on the edge of death. Oxygen deprivation, medication interactions, the brain's final electrical storm. They have explanations for everything, but they can't explain the frozen tubes. They can't explain identical drawings from patients who never met. They can't explain thermal signatures standing in empty corners. They can't explain why some rooms have higher patient turnover than others. Why the night shift refuses to work certain bays. Why the code alarms sometimes trigger for beds that have been empty for hours. But the night shift knows. They don't wear their lanyards facing forward, so nothing can grab them from behind. They don't respond to a call from Room 9 without a witness. They don't whistle while passing the morgue, and they never, ever look at the corner of the room at exactly 3:12 a.m. Have you or a family member ever woken up in a hospital, remembering a figure that shouldn't be there? Share your story below.